So what I really want to do is I want to help you guys get a great stereo sound in your bass, because you need good stereo in your bass. You don't want to overdo it, but you definitely don't want to underdo it either. So in Phase Plant, after creating many preset packs and doing stuff like this, I found myself using certain effects and parameters and things in Phase Plant more than others to get a good stereo sound. I feel like some things are weaken the power too much, but some things are really good at getting a great balance of mono power and the stereo width. So basically, let me just play in a little beat, a little kind of melody here. All right, something like that. Kind of a bit all over the place and lazy and off the grid, and that's what we like, isn't it? So I'll just copy that over for a second. And then if we want to use this sound, just give it a bit more release here. Firstly, I'll give it a bit more variation in the filter here. Yeah, so all it is, it's a really simple sound, just a sine wave and then two saw waves that are an octave higher and slightly detuned, But it's already nice enough to make a sound out of, So yeah, let's say we want to sort of beef this up and stereo it as well, So you could use the global unison, and this is a thing where you have to be careful using it, because it really changes the character a lot, and it can often weaken the power of the sound. So I find myself using it less, to be honest, these days. And especially when you use it, you want to be blending with it. 100% for this kind of sound becomes too unison and too weak, I could get away with blending it maybe 20%. Again, you've got a load of other modes you can try out. And sometimes the frequency stack can get cool results. But you'll get like different pitches and stuff like that, But if you just want to keep the sound as it is, if you notice, you do lose a lot of what the sound was actually to begin with, and a lot of power, even if you're blending it in a little bit. So I'm sometimes careful to use that in reality. It doesn't always get me nice results. What does get better results though is using the distortion and using the spread. That's a great way to get nice stereo, like baked in with your distortion, So that's often quite nice. We can use the hard clip, for example. And you can always mix it in. The mix works quite well on the distortion, so it's quite nice in parallel, So that's done a good job of, distorting it, but also adding stereo here. Okay, so the stereo signal's kind of a bit nicer now. The other things that you can often draw for, or that you would think to draw for that would work well, are things like the ensemble or the chorus. But the chorus, for example, doesn't do such a bad job on this sound. You do lose a bit of power, so you've got to be careful. It's not like the one on Vital, which I think has much more richer sound. So you can be careful and use a little bit of chorus, but it's not really giving you like this wow kind of change to the sound, So I'm just going to scrap it. It's similar thing with the ensemble as well. Like these things like the chorus and ensemble are great if you just want to overly stereo stuff and you're working with other elements like pads or maybe some certain leads or FX sounds, then they're good, But like I'm talking about you want to make powerful basses and you want them stereo but still powerful. And for that reason, these two aren't really that great, you know? Yeah, even the ensemble, not so great. So what I have over the years found is, that I prefer, is to use the comb filter in stereo mode to do this, you know? Already it gives you like a massive, like, new kind of stereo sound, you know? I better clip my channel because this phase plant's going well into the red often, you know? But anyway, you have to mix it in though, obviously. You can test out the polarity in plus or minus, give you slightly different tonalities. I'll leave this one on plus, but that sounds great there, you know? And now that has like given me a great stereo enhancement, but I've kept and almost improved the whole power of the whole sound as well, you know? So that's why this plugin is actually my favorite way to get stereo in phase plant. And yeah, because it's basically it has a comb filter, you know, filters the sound and gives it kind of new harmonics, you know, and then it's sort of stereoing those harmonics out and blending them back in, so they're kind of different. But I think it's more just to do with the programming of this plugin or the algorithm on it or the software that just sounds better, you know. But anyway, you can also always get really sick results when you modulate the frequency amount. Okay, so that sounds sick now compared to before. Now I've got much bigger and brighter sound, like much more stereoed, but kept the original power in it as well, you know. So that's worked much better than using the global unison, than using the chorus, or than using the ensemble. And so yeah, really that is the best way that I've found to do that, you know, to get, you know, a powerful stereo bass sound. There might be a couple of other things that you could do to enhance it. Again, with stuff like the the distortions as well. If you're gonna, you know, stack up multiple distortions and use different colors, like the different modes here, you know. Let's try a bit with the saturate, maybe. It does over distort quite quickly on that one, so the mix will have to be quite low. But that's good. That's good. It gives you a little more power and a bit more stereo as well. And then, you know, you can use stuff like the convolver. Again, you have to be careful with this. And if you use the white blur 50 millisecond here, the short white blur one, that gives you a lovely stereo reverb, you know, nice and tight. But again, you're going to lose a bit of power when you turn the mix up. Again, you could do some extra clever routing and use multipass and like make little parallel signals and yeah, multi-band stuff as well. Like that, if you want to get really technical, you could also get great results doing that. That's why phase plant's good for this sort of stuff as well. But I'm just kind of showing you on the basic level of just using the plugins sort of directly on the sound, what kind of works and what doesn't. But the comb filter essentially is the kind of key here to getting a great stereo unlock that stays powerful. So that's really the top tip here for today, you know. But after that, we can just I don't remember if there's I don't think there's stereo in the non-linear filter. Not so much. Not so much stereo, but good still for just saturating a bit. Obviously, we can use stuff like the dual delay as well for extra stereo. We could use a really tight. And mix that in quite low as well. Like that, but that obviously works pretty nicely too. Alright, so that's basically it though. Just sort of boosting up my patch a bit to make it a bit louder here for you guys. But yeah, with a basic sound like this, I know it's not the most, unbelievable sound in the world. It's just a sort of saw lead kind of thing, with a bit of bass underneath it. But yeah, if I'll just tweak it around a bit to make it a little nicer. But yeah, if you kind of just go back to the comb filter here, that's what's really brought it out into the stereo field. Like, that's done all the heavy lifting for this FX chain, So it's worth getting really precise with the amount of mix and the frequencies that you choose. At certain points, when the comb filter's on a certain setting, it's gonna like amplify the signal in like a really harmonious way that will gel with the original. So it's worth kind of tweaking that around a bit, And you could even experiment with using two. You could even use another one and maybe use a different frequency setting here. For example, that also seems to be quite good. Kind of gives me even more stereo now, Could argue it goes slightly too stereo then, but I think it's still alright. You can always check as well, just to wrap up the video, you can check with the stereo plugin here how wide it is, and it's it's not that wide anyway. It's quite fairly central still, But all that, the stereo that is in there that we've added is probably mostly come from the comb filter. Again, we can sort of check here. Yeah, you see how a lot of that stereo width has come from our comb filters, So that's what I've used to get it from pretty much mono, because it's all like mono to begin with, from mono to wide. But in doing so, I haven't like weakened the mono at all. Whereas like, again, if you was to take those off and use use the chorus or the ensemble, for example, there you've got the same sort of stereo width, but if you listen to the power of the sound, you've completely lost all of the power, So what I've rambled a lot, but that is the point of this video, because what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to be able to create the sickest bass lines that have like power and stereo impact all within the synth already before you even do post-processing. Remember, if you over stereo too much in the synth to begin with and weaken it, then you're not going to be able to really get the power back easily afterwards. So even if you don't use the comb filter and do more stuff just like closer to mono, that's probably going to be better in the long run, because you can add stereo later in post-processing with other plugins, but you can't really go back always and add that mono power back in. So that's why, although the plugins like the chorus and the ensemble and some of these tools are very useful, they are actually also a little bit destructive when you're trying to create powerful bass sounds, you know. So just be careful with which plugins you use when you're using phase plant. But as I've showed you in this video, my sort of solution that I found quite recently is using the coma filters to add stereo and shying a little more away from the unisons, the choruses and the ensembles within phase plant, you know. But that's just one way I like to use it. I hope it helps you out. I hope it inspires you. I hope it gives you a bit of a push in the right direction. I hope you guys are all smashing your music. Leave us a cheeky like and a comment down below. Love to hear from you guys. All right, my G's, much love. Yeah, take care, and more from me soon. Yeah, ciao ciao.